Okay, I'm going to disappear. I'll make you larger. And then as you start your presentation, I'll make you smaller.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, welcome. My name is Martha Gordon. I am an outpatient clinician at Syntero Counseling. This is the third in a series of 3 videos about mental health and workplace retention. I'm asking and answering the questions why, what, and how, talking about workplace retention with a mental health lens. This presentation, this series of presentations is brought to you by a collaboration between Syntero Counseling, Goodwill Columbus, and Southside Thrive. And this 3-part series asks why mental health is important in workplace retention, what a mentally healthy workplace looks like, and how a company can achieve a more mentally healthy workplace. This particular episode is going to discuss the evolution of a mentally healthy workplace, how a business can build it, and give some examples from agencies and companies in the area that have a more mentally healthy workplace culture. So with every workplace, there are maintenance needs, whether it's a mechanized workforce or a manual workforce. Mechanized workers require regular maintenance in the form of software downloads, hardware upgrades. They need to be turned on and off for cleaning or calibration. Worn parts need to be replaced or fixed, and other upgrades are necessary. So manual workers need regular maintenance too. It tends to be more subtle. Instead of a software download, manual workers need training and retraining. They need to be turned on and off. So they need to have scheduled shifts. And what we know from research is that the more regular those shifts are, the more effective and productive workers can be. Calibration for manual workers can come in the form of workplace activities like retraining and regular breaks, or activities outside of the workplace like time off for personal things, self-care activities, and how workers take care of themselves and their families outside of the workplace. Paying attention to who the worker is when they walk in the door and who the worker is before they walk in the door, and all of the things that affect their life can have a positive influence on their effectiveness and productivity in the workplace. So there's a big difference between employee satisfaction and employee engagement. An employee who's satisfied with their job likes what they do, but an employee who is engaged is a worker that likes what they do and appreciates and feels that they are contributing to the mission of the company or the agency. They consider themselves part of a team rather than somebody who does something that's enjoyable, pleasant, or provides them with the income they desire. So what is a way that we can engage employees? Because engaged employees are employees who are more productive, more likely to stick around, and whose backgrounds are less likely to negatively influence their retention. So it starts with onboarding. When employees come on, it's really, really important that employers outline the job responsibilities of employees, and in particular, describe how the employee is contributing to the mission of the company and how they are an essential component of the company's mission. Employer-employee or employee-manager relationships need to be presented and carried out as collaborative teamwork rather than authoritarian or punitive, so that employees feel that they are a part of what's going on. They are empowered to participate. Part of that is establishing a culture of affirmation and recognition, talking about when employees do things well, and when things aren't going well, offering opportunities for growth and retraining rather than being punitive. Providing opportunities for employees to grow in skills and responsibilities, whether it's in terms of being better at what they do or upward mobility in the company, is one of the major points that has been identified as integral to employee engagement. If employees feel that they can do more or do better or make more in a company, they are more likely to stick around rather than look for other opportunities elsewhere. One of the most important things employers can do, both at onboarding and ongoing, is to ask questions of their employees about what works and what doesn't work, what makes sense and doesn't make sense, and what the employee's needs are. And most importantly, to listen to those answers and try to integrate and create solutions for the problems employees present. When we use a mental health lens to look at employee engagement, we want to make sure that we integrate these principles that are trauma informed, that we recognize that when people walk in the door, they have things that have happened to them in their lives that have shaped who they are and how they interact with one another and how they perceive themselves in terms of their work and their place in the workforce. So those principles include safety, trustworthiness and transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, and an awareness of and intention to cultural, historical, and gender issues. So there's been a lot of talk in the popular media as well as in employer circles about the idea of inclusion in the workforce, inclusion, making people feel welcome. There are lots of different ways to demonstrate your inclusiveness, from making it clear at onboarding that there are no exclusive jobs for people and that everyone is welcome, to signage in the workplace. Offering opportunities for managers and peers to talk about what those barriers are and those stressors are, both in and out of the workplace, makes employees feel comfortable in addressing issues that they see that employers and managers may not understand or perceive just because their view of the world is different. One of the ways to do this is to identify a mental health officer in the workplace or a wellness officer in the workplace to help to identify some of those things, to provide a bridge of communication between the different levels of tasks within the company, and clearly outlining and reinforcing the idea that there is a process for identifying and remediating employee stress, whether it's stress from the work that they do or stress that they bring with them from outside, including that in the conversation, making it a place where employees can talk to their supervisors and their managers about the things that are getting in the way or the barriers that they have outside of the workplace that are influencing their productivity, are both things that can make employees feel more safe in the workplace and reduce attrition. Inclusive space signage is available in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places, whether it's inclusiveness in terms of gender, inclusiveness in terms of ableness, or inclusiveness in terms of race or ethnicity or some other variable. Empowerment is another characteristic of a mentally healthy workplace that is aware of the trauma that people walk in the door holding on. Recognizing that the employee that walks in the door is a whole person, is more than just the person who works the line or is at the register, drives the forklift. they come with skills and ideas, and they also may come with barriers or obstacles to their growth or to their understanding or to their ability to participate fully in the workforce as an engaged and productive employee. So providing feedback and affirmation, as well as opportunities for retraining and growth, is an important way of giving the employee the opportunity to request those things so that they can grow on their own and they can feel that they are connected to the workforce and the workplace and that the company is invested in them. That kind of communication needs to be two-way, needs to be reciprocal, both top down and bottom up. So employees need to be able to communicate with their upline management, and employers need to be able to communicate from the CEO on down with employees in a meaningful way. Frequently, HR is the agent or the department identified as disseminating information and being that bridge. And so HR needs to be present and available to employees rather than the office down the hall that's only open 2 hours a day, or that is dismissive of people who come for with questions or concerns. So employees who have a designated HR staff person that they can access and talk to, who knows who they are, can be a really, really valuable opportunity to empower both employees and the company to connect with one another. So trustworthiness and transparency are yet additional characteristics of a mentally healthy workplace and engaged employees. Essentially, it's doing what you say and saying what you do, making sure that as much as possible, employees are part of the decision-making process that with things that affect them, and that they are aware of what's going on in the company and why the company does what it does. Again, going back to what the company's mission is and how that relates to individual employees and what they do. That can take the place of bulletin boards in the workplace, employee newsletters that are either hard copies or emailed, regular staff meetings, things like daily touching base at the beginning or the end of a shift to assess and clarify responsibilities and expectations. Also creating opportunities for self-evaluation and retraining again, so employees can be comfortable in assessing their own needs and their own willingness and openness and need for growth in their job. And sharing information about the company's performance is another way to be transparent, so that I know that what I've done has made a difference in the company's bottom line, whether it is in terms of how many things I do or how long I stay on the job. Peer support and collaboration in the workforce are also characteristics that contribute to employee engagement and to a mentally healthy workplace. When people work together and are expected to work together, when they trust and rely on one another for information and productivity, the workforce is more effective and production is increased. People stick around when they like the people they work with. So creating teams of mixed management levels to increase cohesion and to limit that perception of these people don't belong, or they don't know what they're doing, or they don't know this job is really important. If managers know what is not just what is expected of employees that are downline from them, but also know what that job entails, they can be more informed and accessible and understanding about problems that might occur either in the job or in the team. And again, emphasizing how the mission of the company is expressed in each position, no matter what level of management it is another way to encourage that idea of collaboration. Suggestion boxes, opportunities for people to make statements or suggestions at team meetings. All of those things contribute to an employee feeling heard and connected and engaged. So what are some examples of mentally healthy workplaces? So I'm biased. I love my company, my agency, and I feel that they do an exceptional job of engaging employees in the workplace. There's in-person onboarding. I didn't sit in front of a computer screen and watch videos of people talking about various departments. I actually got to meet people and introduce myself, and pre-COVID at least, shake hands with people that were in charge of various programs. So I understood what was going on and could put a face and a voice, and they could see and recognize me as a new cog in the machine of Syntero. There were opportunities for shadowing, there's mentoring and supervision, support for self-care, and flexibility for attending to personal issues outside of the workplace. We have regular newsletters, employee recognition and rewards. I can go on and on. Goodwill is another agency that provides support for their employees by offering newsletters that have very specific information about mental health needs, coping with stress, staff support meetings, team building activities, and regular meetings within and across departments. Ohio Health as a company at its various locations has quiet rooms for meditation and prayer, so people can take time during their breaks to reconnect with themselves, to calm themselves down, to fill themselves back up again so that they can address whatever issues are necessary on the job with a clear mind. They also have opportunities for ongoing training and retraining and tuition reimbursement, things like that. Deloitte is an agency or is a company in the area that encourages college interns who are mentored by employees there so that interns can learn what it really looks like to have a job and what is expected of them on the job, so that they are informed workers when they enter the workplace and they understand a little bit more of what's expected of them. That's an example of that mentoring and peer mentoring. Nationwide Children's Hospital, I just saw an ad the other day, has an employee wellness officer that is available to employees to discuss their concerns, to provide opportunities for self-care in the workplace, on the work floor, so that employee burnout and distress is reduced so that employees are more able to do their job effectively and productively. COVID-19 is a stressor or a trauma that has impacted all of us and is something that we have very little control over. An already vulnerable workforce that has been identified on the south and west side of Columbus has been disproportionately impacted in a negative way by COVID. There's been an increase in mental health symptoms among this population. There have been over 713 deaths in Franklin County alone that were related to COVID, and those have impacted our workforce in a number of different ways, ranging from grief to sleep and eating difficulties, increased substance use disorders, and distraction from their ability to be productive and to be engaged in the workforce, in addition to raising concerns about employee absenteeism and tardies and concern for contagion on the job. All of those things are negatively impacting productivity and retention and contributing to attrition in the workforce. Some of the side effects of the COVID pandemic and the lockdown have been remote or hybrid schooling that puts additional stress on parents and families to try to maintain their children's progress academically, has made created huge problems in the field of childcare. And a lot of people, as I said, there have been a fair number of deaths, as well as people who are sick and recovering and need to be cared for by employees, as well as the employees themselves who have become ill and unable to work for long periods of time. COVID has contributed to a decrease in the household income across the board, but particularly in this vulnerable set of employees that we're discussing, the Black and Brown workers on the south and west side of Columbus. There's a great deal of concern about their own susceptibility to contagion, particularly many of the people who are entering or who are in the workforce who have pre-existing health conditions but are required to continue working collaboratively with other employees with only limited understanding of how to or ability to keep themselves safe from potential contagion. And one of the other things that's happening is as our workforce is affected, those people remaining healthy and remaining in the workforce are often finding their workloads or their productivity expectations increased, and that stressor is adding to their likelihood of attrition. So what can we do? How do we build this? How do we help this? How do we address these problems from a mental health point of view? What is our psychological first aid? Well, psychological first aid is a concept that has been identified as having a couple of different facets. So one of the things that we can do is, as I mentioned before, we can listen to what the problems are, assess your workforce, talk to your workforce, whether you do it in an informal way by going up to people and saying, what's going on? What do you need? Or in a more formal way through surveys or suggestion boxes or something like that. So listen to what's happening and what your employees need. Are there basic needs being met? Are there problems outside of the workforce that are making your employees more likely to leave their jobs? Do they have sick family members? Do they have children at home who are trying to do online or hybrid schooling so they aren't able to work the day shift? They have to work the night shift and now they're sleep deprived. What are some of the things that are going on with them? Again, talk to and listen to your employees. Protect your employees, provide a safe workplace. Emphasize the PPE, the personal protection equipment available on the job. Emphasize things like washing hands, hand sanitizer, masks, double masking, maintaining distances, and enforce those things in a caring and compassionate way in order to protect everyone in the workplace from the bottom up and the top down. Instill hope in your employees. Remain positive about the things that you can do and the things that they can do to keep themselves safe, to provide safety, to maintain their jobs, and to help the company stay active and productive so that things can continue as the pandemic slowly recedes and its influence on our lives starts to be repaired. So the questions I asked were, how does a mentally healthy workplace evolve? And I hope I helped you to understand that listening to the needs and obstacles identified by employees is one of the most important things you can do to achieve a workforce that is engaged and remains in the job and in the workforce and at your company. What do we do to build that up? Well, we address the culture both from the top down and the bottom up to create that sense of engagement, that sense of usefulness and connection to the company, so that employees understand that their needs are and can be met by the company in a caring and compassionate way, and that there is a collaborative understanding that's pervasive within the company. And finally, I hope I gave some examples of a mentally healthy workplace culture with some of the agencies and companies within the area. I'm sure there are many, many other examples, and growing that and nurturing that kind of a culture is going to help your employees stay engaged and remain on the job, so that your company can grow and prosper, and your employees within it can grow and prosper. I hope that this series has been effective and useful for you, and that it has contributed to your growth as a company and your growth as a mentally healthy workplace. Thank you very much.